Hey guys, Nick here, and today we'll be getting into part 10 of What If the Governor Met Negan, the remake. Now, in the last episode, we covered Daryl saving Beth, Abraham, and Sasha, well, mainly Beth, from Dwight and turning Dwight into the Saviors, and meeting little Timmy and them on the road once again for Daryl, and blowing them to smithereens like before, and Daryl leaving Beth off with his crossbow, and that the governor is working with a new enemy. Meanwhile, at Alexandria, since we're now into that part, again, Enid and Glenn, we still get those interactions, and we still get the clock tower falling at Alexandria. So, mostly, like I said in a few other episodes, most scenes here, outside of extra characters, some more dialogue, would remain the same. Governor's the main influence with Negan in this story, really. But Morgan is still caught by Carol, who's holding Owen hostage. Big difference here is that Mika's around. That would be the first major difference for this episode, as well as others, obviously. Now, the difference with Mika being around plays into factor when Owen holds Denise hostage and holds everyone at gunpoint. He is effectively gunned down within 3 seconds of doing this by none other than Mika, who, in this story, like a few others, and I say a few, is actually beginning to evolve as a warrior, essentially. What Carol wanted of her, really. Then we skip ahead to everybody out and, covering themselves up in the guts and everything. And Deanna's still alive. Reg is the one that got bit this time. Now, I feel that Ron, regardless of whether or not Sam would be a little crybaby and get traumatized by Carol, which wouldn't happen here, would still try and kill Rick regardless. But whether or not his mother and brother would still be alive, and anything like that, him still trying to kill Rick, wouldn't work out for him. Michonne kills him just like she did before, but with different circumstances and more people around. The gunshot doesn't go for Carl's eye. It goes for Rick's shoulder. Now, why is this such a big deal, you might ask? Because it's the same shoulder that he was, number one, shot in, remember, right at the very beginning of The Walking Dead, and number two, stabbed in by Morgan. And Carl knows this. And right whenever it happens, Carl's the one that takes the lead. Rick's okay, but he is injured from the shot, obviously, and says that they need to get Rick to Denise right now, because he could lose his arm from being injured in that particular shoulder so many times. They could have to remove his arm if it gets bad. Rick says that he's okay once they get to Denise's and everything, and says that they need him and they need to get rid of this horde. But Jesse says they can't ask him to do anything right at the moment. Because if he goes out there, Carl's right. If what he said is true, and he was shot at that shoulder way at the very beginning, and then stabbed in it, even if it was a long time after, and a long time after both instances, it's too risky, and he needs to let it heal fully. Or otherwise, he could lose his entire shoulder, or not just his shoulder, but his arm. He could possibly lose his life. Michonne agrees with this and touches upon it further. And with that, Rick has no choice but to sit this one out. He gives Carl, as well as probably Michonne or Jesse, all 3 of his weapons, as possibly a few others. His axe, his python, and his machete, as well as, like I said, a few others. But these are the main ones that Rick was known for, which would be sensible to him giving them away. And with that, Rick has no choice but to sit this one out. The rest of the group takes on the horde alone. Outside of Rick not helping, there is another change. Beth is the one who fires the rocket launcher instead of Daryl. And, effectively, I think a few small people would die here because of Rick not helping, but they do still pull through. And once they do, and Rick is able to heal his arm to some degree, a night after the incident, he wonders why Beth has a crossbow and a rocket launcher. And the fact that that crossbow reminded him of Daryl, he wants to know what happened. Beth tells Rick that a lot went down and that she met Daryl on the road and he actually saved her and gave her the crossbow, but then he went off again. Rick is just blown away at this point because, hold on, you're saying that Daryl came back just to save you and then ran off again whenever giving you the crossbow. And Rick wants a full explanation. And, he really just wants to know why Daryl would save her and then just leave. Doesn't make sense. Beth goes in to explain everything that happened and why it took them so long to return. She explains how they got attacked by people on the road, explains how she almost got killed by 3 people, Daryl saved her, exposed those people to the group he was kidnapped by, and they met more of that group on the road, which Daryl had already met and got kidnapped by, blew him to smithereens, gave her the crossbow, and effectively left. But not before giving a very serious warning, and one that she tells Rick this needs to be taken very seriously. She says that Daryl is with a group whose leader is working with the governor, and he's the one who wants Daryl, Rick, and Michonne for revenge. Immediately, Rick calls together everybody who knew of the governor, and anyone in earshot just completely is blown away at the fact that their old foe from back at the prison is alive. Rick, Carol, Glenn, Maggie, Sasha, Carl, and Michonne are all blown away at this. Michonne pulls out her sword in a furious rage, just really not at anyone in particular, but the fact that she looked for this guy for ages and she never found him. And he's been with this group all the time, the group that kidnapped Daryl and almost got Beth, Sasha, and Abraham killed. Rick, this hits him the hardest. Because, think about it. The governor and all of them, they might not have mattered a lot like the original story, but it still hit Rick hard. He didn't kill Herschel or anything, but he was still a very big deal. Especially because of the death of Andrea and the fact that Merle affected Daryl's character development. Soon enough, Rick comes to a decision after much time thinking. This would be some time after Beth had just poured all this information onto them. He says that if the governor wants him, Michonne, and Daryl's already there, who knows what the governor has in store for him, what he's planning for them. So if the governor wants revenge, if he wants a fight and he's with this group, a fight is exactly what he'll get. And that's where we leave things for the moment. What do you guys think is going to happen now that the group has been formally informed of the governor being alive? Do you think that Rick and Michonne and them will actually have a plan against the Saviors and not get to the whole lineup thing? And if they do, how will it in turn happen with the governor's influence? What do you think's in store for Daryl once he returns to the sanctuary? And what will happen further? Leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.